All right. Our IGIC Lunch and Learn for November 16th, 2022. With us to talk about a big topic in my mind on getting started with geospatial, recording this video. And so at a later, probably by tomorrow, we'll put it on our IGIC YouTube channel. And I encourage anyone who has questions and has a microphone to speak up when they have questions. If you don't have a microphone or you're not comfortable speaking up to the group, please do put any questions you have in the chat window, or if there's anything you want to share with links, put it in the chat and we will grab that recording, any of those links out and the information after this presentation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Christy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Micah. So my name is Christy Curran. I'm a senior consultant with Esri. I'm actually out of the St. Louis regional office, so very close to where you are here in the Midwest. I've been with Esri about almost 12 years and all within professional services. I really love working with our customers and helping them find new ways to apply GIS within their organizations. And one of the ways that we do that is by coming up with and helping implement geospatial strategies. And that's what we're here today to talk about. So today's key takeaways, what is a geospatial strategy and why do you need one? Why are they important? What are some key considerations as you develop a geospatial strategy? What should you keep in mind as you're building this, as you're trying to implement? And then how do you successfully execute on that strategy? And you might already be thinking, where do I start? What do I do? How do I begin to design and implement one? And that sets my organization on a path to take a geographic approach, to learn spatial thinking, and to create a geographic advantage. And you're not alone. Many customers that I work with, they ask me the same questions. You know, where do I start? What do I do next? And so you really focus on the business or the mission and not the technology. And as GIS professionals, I know that can be really hard to make that switch in thinking. So at the heart of our approach is a focus on the business needs of the organization. So understanding the challenges your organization is facing, identifying where spatial technology can be applied, and then developing a plan, and then finally acting upon that plan. So if you're like me, I'm very process oriented. I like things that I know I can follow. And so this here approach is something that we've discovered that works really well with customers. So Esri recommends having a geospatial strategy, and this is the approach that we take to help develop it and execute one. So we've learned over many years that our most successful customers know that they first must understand and then plan and then act. So it's not, you know, a mechanical process or management strategy, but more so considerations to build off of and then further iterate on. And we call this the geospatial strategy approach. So it seems simple here, but this was built based on seeing what successful customers have been doing, and then trying to create an approach that has worked across scale, industry, and various levels of GIS expertise. So a couple of definitions here that we wanted to kind of level set. So what is a strategy? And a strategy is a plan of action or policy designed to achieve a major or overall aim. It's about making certain choices, and it's about understanding where you are starting, creating an aspirational vision, and then deciding how you are going to get there. And so then what is a geospatial strategy? A geospatial strategy defines how an organization will use GIS to achieve its goals. So it's essentially your organization's GIS business plan. You know, how are you going to use GIS to achieve your goals and taking into account people, process, and technology. So not just the technology part of it. So you're syncing your geospatial strategy to your organizational and your IT strategy. So why do you need a geospatial strategy? Sometimes in talking with customers, they'll tell me that, they don't have the time to invest in building a comprehensive strategy. And it does take effort. Some people say they're doing just fine and that they have a solid backlog of work and are getting things done. And in both cases, by establishing a geospatial strategy, you can ensure that the limited time and resources that you do have are being spent on the right things, that the work that you are doing is having an impact on your community, your organization, or your business. And we see three primary areas why organizations will invest in developing a geospatial strategy. So the first is to obtain the benefits, to maximize the return on investment of their location technology. So over the years, we have seen many customers reap these benefits from aligning their GIS programs with the mission and the vision of the organization. So strategy provides direction. The organizational benefits from developing and implementing a geospatial strategy are numerous and benefit the organization as a whole, not just the GIS team or the GIS program. And so these here just list a few of them. So providing accountability or delivering solutions in a sustainable manner. Stimulating the adoption and expansion of GIS across the organization. GIS can solve so many different problems. Is how do we reach those different aspects of our organization that might not realize, that's just the power that they can have at their fingertips. So kind of the second reason is to demonstrate value. So you have, this GIS investment that already exists. So the value gained from developing a geospatial strategy is then often measured in increased capabilities. So new capabilities that impact across the organization, capabilities that are the combination of competencies, processes, tools, standards, knowledge, and experience. So not just focusing on the technology part, but also the people part and the process as well. And then lastly, to overcome challenges. So these challenges can be related to mission, technology, processes, and even people. Here we see some common ones that we run across when working with our customers. I'm sure that many of you can relate to one or more of these challenges. A geospatial strategy can provide an enormous number of benefits across the organization and used to tackle a variety of initiatives within it as well. And as GIS professionals, it should be part of our DNA to find business challenges, considering ways technology could support those challenges, and then actually build the things that show business value. So when we do this, we utilize this workflow throughout the process. And it takes into account your organization's goals and then tries to address the challenges that may be impeding those goals by providing GIS solutions that enable the business value of GIS.
Can I interrupt you for a second, Christy?
Please do, yes.
So this is Micah, and so one of the things that all that seems really daunting. And are you going to be discussing like resources and templates? Because it's one thing to use these big framework discussions.
Mm-hmm.
Goal to be really like know where all of our assets are.
Micah, you just teed this up perfectly because now I was going to go back to, so all of this is, we're back to the start. How do we start this? And so, yes, so all of this, kind of explaining why a geospatial strategy is important. What are the benefits? But then like, that's all said and good, but like, how do I do it? What are the pieces that go into it? What do I need? And yes, that is basically right here. So this here, kind of going back to that understand, plan, act. I'm going to go through each of these kind of key components, and then as I do so, please let me know if I'm not addressing your questions or if you have additional questions that I can try and answer as well, if that is helpful. So again, so back to the start, like, so how do we get started? And so first is we need to assemble the team. So knowing who within your organization will fulfill these three roles is critical to the success of a strategy. So how many of you in your careers have tried to fulfill two of these roles simultaneously, or even all three of them? Uh, I can attest from personal experience that it's very challenging. It's not easy to do. So breaking these three into kind of three separate roles is important. So your executive sponsor is the decision maker and will give you lots of support, but most likely doesn't have time for the day-to-day activities. Your champion is the evangelist and is someone who believes in the value of geospatial solutions for their organization. And then the technical leads are the ones that are actually bringing those solutions to life. So these roles are critical to the success and need to be in alignment before creating your geospatial strategy. So again, the executive sponsor is someone who supports the champion and can allocate funding and resources to projects and initiatives. The champion is the person who believes in the value of GIS solutions for the organization. And then the technical leadership are the people or person who work with the champion and the executive sponsor to bring those solutions to life. And again, sometimes, you might be both the champion and the technical leadership, but trying to find those individuals that will help support you along this journey are very important.
Do you think that these people have to be from within the organization?
I guess not necessarily. If you have um, executive sponsor or somebody that might be able to provide funding or, resources that might not be within the organization, that might, work, or technical leadership that, you might need some extra supports and you bring in other people to help build these solutions, or you might be the champion within your organization. You see that and you can kind of try and find, um, you know, peers or people within your community that can help do all of these things. That might be your team as well. So after you assemble your team, the next step is engaging with leadership in a repeatable, programmatic way. So having this built, maybe this is built into your organization's governance, if that's an option. Addressing each department and function across the overall organization, kind of taking into account, what keeps them up at night, what are their biggest pain points, what are those problems that they're trying to solve that, they really, you're putting a band-aid on, or that's what you're trying to get to the heart of. Like, where are those challenges that are preventing the organization or the different departments from reaching those goals? And then finding the framework to be able to repeat that conversation, throughout the different departments that you might be working with. And then challenges can be uncovered at any level of the organization. So it's not only important to go across, different departments, but also throughout the, from the highest level, to the people like doing the work out in the field or whatnot. So and challenges, uncovering those challenges, and then finding the ones that will have the most value to the most people that you need to engage across the organization. So who are those people, that you are going to work with to discover those challenges? And then who do you engage with to develop the plan? And then ensuring that you're understanding all of the business needs across the entire organization, which again can seem like a very large task, but trying to do it in a programmatic, repeatable fashion should hopefully kind of take the pressure off of, you um, to to make it so it's not as overwhelming. So how do you establish a geospatial strategy? So now that we've assembled the team, what's the next step? And so the first thing is to really gain a solid understanding of the organization as a whole. So understanding the current state, getting a clear understanding of what the mission is, the vision, the purpose, goals, objectives. You want to understand the business needs. What are their current geospatial capabilities and readiness? Just understanding the organization itself, and then what are the challenges that are affecting those goals, and then also what's the success criteria. I always ask, what does success mean to you? How will we know that we've done something successful? What does that mean? And so making sure that you're understanding all of that from a holistic point of view is really that first step before you can begin to develop a plan, just gaining a solid understanding of what those ideas are. So key considerations that you want to keep in mind, like also notice that these overlap on purpose because all of these things are interconnected. So the first circle here, and probably the most important, is your organization's business needs and challenges. So this is the what that we are trying to address and achieve with the strategy. The second circle, patterns of use and information products. So this is the how. How are you currently operating? What are you using in key workflows now? What are some key business products? So it's connected to the first circle, thinking about what are some patterns where we are seeing the same challenges repeated. And then the third circle, technology. So how are you currently operating? Understanding what are the key technology products being used in workflows. Are there new opportunities here for solutions? What do we need to do with location technology to overcome challenges that'll make our goals achievable? So Esri has learned over the years the importance of common patterns of use. So these here are the 9 kind of main common patterns of use that we've seen. And most challenges are solved by the patterns here. And then each one, as we go into the further slides, you'll kind of see how this all interacts with each other. So as we move here into this next one, patterns usually pair well together. Usually we see a primary pattern and then auxiliary patterns. So if we look here with, decision support might be the primary pattern, but what goes with decision support, maybe some analytics, maybe some real-time monitoring, maybe, mapping and visualization. Just seeing something on a map sometimes, provides so much power to people that they didn't even realize, and allows them to make a better, more effective decision. So creating logical progressions based on business priorities. The patterns help connect geospatial technology with business needs in order to create capabilities that'll then deliver solutions. So here's an example of a current use matrix. So we've taken the 9 different common patterns of use and then some departments within an organization, and then plotted where each department is using this color-coded chart. So the lighter the box, the less a department is utilizing GIS. So you can then begin to see trends of where there is a suboptimal use of GIS. So in this example, we see, fire and EMS, maybe they aren't as enabled as we would like them to be. Or monitoring as a whole across the organization, there looks to be like there could be some room for improvement there. So this kind of allows you, at a glance to see where we could beef up our GIS infrastructure or technology. And so now we switch to the future desired state. So which departments do we want to focus our attention on? Which will give you the most value? Which are the ones that that people need the most? And same with the common patterns of use. Like where will you get the most value for it? So and that's where in this example we have highlighted. So fire and EMS we want to kind of focus on. Same with health and human services. And maybe during the conversations it turned out that maybe data management is the place that really needs to have time spent on. So it allows you to kind of see those patterns and to kind of see where we want to go in the future, and allows you, so once you know those 2 things, then you can kind of plan for how to get there. Which moves here into our next slide. So when are you ready to move to plan? So we've done all of this understanding. So how do we know we're ready? And so here, this is kind of a checklist for you. So you've assembled your team of key stakeholders, check done. You're able to articulate the business goals and the value to the stakeholders. And then you understand the business challenges that are affecting your organization. So, and they're all agreed upon and understood. And then at a high level, kind of starting to figure out what solutions, what's geospatial solutions that you'll be able to apply to those challenges. Because, in the back of our minds, we're all thinking like, oh, we could do, a survey 123 to help out with that. Or, oh, we could build this web map to be able to, show them, or this dashboard, or whatever it is. So you already have these ideas in your mind. Of how you're going to do it. So now we're ready to move on to plan once we've kind of have this understood upon. So, and the planning phase is now where we start to define our future states. Where do you want to be in, 2, 3, 4, or 5 years? And so the roadmap to executing our strategy, accomplishing our goals, and realizing our vision. So when engaging across your organization, you have to identify business challenges and consider ways that technology can be applied to alleviate those challenges. This isn't meant to be a one and done conversation, but rather a continued engagement where you get feedback. As we are developing our plan, oftentimes we come to realize that you need to clarify use cases and success criteria with your stakeholders. We may need to go back and gather additional information and engage with end users in order to build an effective plan. So GIS professionals, we need to learn how to identify those business challenges, consider ways technology could be used to support those challenges, and then actually build the things that show the business value. So a crucial component in this phase is, a clear understanding, again, of the business needs, and then articulating those into activities that are part of the solution process. Prioritizing and sequencing will be critical. We also suggest assessing each activity against 2 criteria as a minimum. So the value that it brings to the organization, and then how hard or easy will it be to launch. Initially, we will go after the ones that rank in both areas, that rank high in both areas, and fall within the quick win quadrants in the upper right of our matrix. So when we plan activities, what are those quick wins? What can you easily, show value to people that can get that out the door? And then you can build momentum on that and get people excited about the things that you're able to provide to them. Those should be done first. And then you can kind of start to work on the, high value, but maybe harder, to implement ones. So in this plan phase, again, you have to have a clear understanding of where you currently are and then where you are working towards. And so most organizations will have several steps to take us from the current state to the future states. And the color coding you see here is important. Your plan should look to address people, process, and technology. And it's also important to note that not all challenges can be solved solely with technology. It's not until you know the business value of GIS that you can define this future state with additional strategic value. This also means that the solutions you develop, the things you do with GIS, have to be meaningful and measurable. Otherwise, the justification of additional value delivered gets very difficult to justify. So it's important to start with the clear understanding of the business goals and challenges, as well as an understanding of your success criteria before creating and implementing a plan. So activities, projects, solutions, these have a lot of different names, but here's some possible examples that we've seen customers take on. And a key point to remember is that you can't do it all, at least not at once. So again, that's where the prioritization comes in handy. So, here, replacing a paper-based workflow with a mobile cot solution, this might be a real simple quick win that you'll be able to put in the hands of the people that are out in the field doing the work and, start to show the value. Then you have all that data collected digitally and you can easily show it on a map or a dashboard. Maybe integrating with a third-party business system, that might be a little harder to do, but it's very high importance. So you have that going on in the background, but you start to make your way through your list. And so when are you ready to move to act? So we've got, we have our plan in place, or we think we do. How do we know we're ready to move to the next state? So again, here's our checklist. So we have our definition of, what is our target future states. We have our list of potential geospatial activities needed to get from the current state to the future state. We've prioritized those activities, and our first activity is planned, defined, and ready to go. So we have the scope of it, it's ready to be acted upon. So you've now got your roadmap in place with your prioritized and sequence activities. And so this is an example of a strategy timeline. You can see it is less about the tactical planned activities and more about documenting the broader business objectives and the tactics that will be used to meet those objectives. So as you can see here, we have two main business objectives: establish the foundation and build capability, and then each with multiple tactics identified over the course of the year. So each of these individual tactics could have multiple activities associated with it, and all are addressing people, process, and technology. So this level of graphic is especially nice to show your leadership team to help focus on the strategy and then keep them out of the tactics. And so here is an example of a summary canvas for a geospatial strategy on a single slide. So the top part here is the why. It shows how we will define success. It states the mission or the vision, the goals, and the stakeholders. The middle section is the what and how. So it's focused on how you're going to achieve success, and it addresses the business needs and expected outcomes. And then the bottom portion is our plan of action. So building graphics like this will help you immediately understand if your actions are aligning with your stakeholders and the broader organizational strategy. And some ask, like, how long does something like this take to put together? And if you're just starting out, it could take a few months to be able to get through every group. But if you're revisiting it, year after year, it'll get easier to do. It might take a couple of weeks to maintain. It really just depends on the size and the scope of the organization. All right, so now we move on to how do I execute a geospatial strategy? So that takes us to the act phase. And so here's where we go through the process of implementing our activities that start our journey. So in the act phase, we have four main components: prepare, implement, operate, and review. The act phase is often likened to an agile approach. So I personally use a lot of this with my customers when I'm working on projects. So you want to avoid getting into the implement and operate piece, which is where we find a lot of organizations spending a lot of their time. So just like you can be working on multiple projects at the same time, it's key to remember an organization can launch multiple initiatives simultaneously. So again, you can do multiple things at once, but you don't have to. So then, so far we've talked about our three major steps: understand, plan, and act. And it's important to remember this fourth step here, which is revisit. So it's really important to make sure that we are constantly revisiting this as we're executing on our geospatial strategy. It's meant to be a continuous process, and one where we execute incrementally and work through a cycle of planning, defining, implementing, operating, measuring, and revisiting. So the revisiting is where we learn what's working, what isn't working, where our organization is finding value, and what needs improvements. And you could do this quarterly, bi-yearly, or annually, whatever works. Things happen, such as a pandemic or return to work. There's always something that's going to throw a wrench into what we think we have planned, and it'll cause us need to revisit. So it's important to constantly just check yourself and make sure that things are going to plan, or maybe different priorities will pop up. So taking into that, that'll be important as well. So then what can you do? So define your strategy. So you want to make sure that you're engaging the right people, articulating your organization's mission, goals, objectives, and challenges, defining ways GIS can be used to address a challenge, prioritizing the sequence of events, and then getting started. So it's going to be a journey and a process to go from your current state to your future state, but it'll be worth it in the long run. And so what are your next steps here? So kind of starting with the strategy, articulating your organization's goals and challenges, identifying ways GIS can bring business value and provide solutions, and then creating your vision for your GIS program. And so we have a couple of white papers that you can go out and see. It goes into further detail on some of these things. You can also, if you're interested in continuing the conversation, I have my email address up here, ccurran@esri.com. We also have an alias, geospatial strategy at esri.com as well. But that is all of the slides that I have today. So if there's any specific questions or anything that you'd like me to go back and discuss, I'm more than happy to do so.
So, Christy, I know this is a really daunting topic. Can you think of some good ways to approach something like this? If you have a company that's kind of invested in GIS over the years, but maybe needs some kind of a kickstart, do you think, it seems to me like this would approach for something like that to kind of try to refocus maybe where money is being spent or to remind why it's important. Sometimes it's an ignored asset.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there some part, I mean, would you start at the beginning kind of this approach, or is there some modifications you could kind of do it like a mini? You know,
Yeah.
cheat sheet.
Yeah. I mean, I think doing a mini version might work as well. Maybe focusing on one specific organization or department within your organization that you know has so much potential that you haven't used yet, and using them as a like a pilot or a showcase of what GIS can do for that group, and then kind of marketing it what out as well, kind of highlighting this is this fire and EMS group, they didn't really have much in the way of GIS, but we came together as a team, we really focused on that, and we were able to provide all of these different solutions, and now look at how effective that is, and look at the value that we're able to provide to them. So I think, starting small also, there's a lot to be said for it. And then just making sure, that you can highlight those successes. It's, I think that's important too.
You mentioned several times where, people that you worked with. So is that like a value? Is that something that somebody is an existing Esri client and would like to look at these two resources and then maybe talk to you? Is that something that's just kind of included with being an Esri client who's current on maintenance, or is there like other services that Esri offers?
Yeah, so I am an advisor in the Advantage program. So some of my customers are already part of that program, and so as part of it, you get an advisor and you can work with it. We also do one-offs as well. So say that you really just want somebody else to help, like us, to come in and help with, facilitating these conversations. Because sometimes it's easier just to have a neutral third party come in and be able to help rather than, try and take it on yourself. And we do that as well, kind of working with it and then being able to kind of develop, well, we think it's going to take, if you want to focus on one organization, providing, a scope and to be able to do that as well. So there's different options that we can do to help with that.
Hi, Christy. Thanks for the presentation. I have a question, and I don't know if this maybe came up, but where from the flyer where you talked about like the foundation, capacity, enablement, engagement, and innovation. I was kind of curious as to what would you say would be the deliverable, right, for each of those blocks, and maybe also like what kind of timeline would that take?
So going back to, let me find the slide. Back it up here to that, the common patterns of use. Was it that slide?
Yeah, I might have missed it, but the one that had foundation, capacity, enablement,
Yeah, hold on. Backing it
or
up.
maybe it was just in the flyer for the announcement.
Was it this one?
No.
So I guess it's the different deliverables. I guess it kind of depends. I guess on what each one would be. Let me see if I can pull up the flyer so I know what uh here we go. Oh, okay. So I see it now. I'm looking at the email. So foundation, so develop program governance, evolve geospatial data practices, improve
Yeah.
that. Okay,
Yeah.
I see it. So I think the different deliverables, like it might be so foundation, so develop program governance. So what we do when we work with different customers is we have a governance document. And so we will have, different conversations with different departments, very similar to doing a geospatial strategy, but kind of talking about governance as a whole, like web governance, data governance, different aspects there. But then providing an organization a document of like, here are all the rules that we talk about. Program governance here, that's how is this geospatial strategy kind of program going to work towards? So it could be a document just saying like, here's all of the rules, and maybe it doesn't even have to be as formal as that. Maybe it's just a common agreement that amongst the stakeholders of how you're going to do something. It really kind of depends on the level of formality that you want to do. So capacity, so growing workforce capabilities, transforming service delivery. So that might be, coming up with training plans for, different people, depending on their role within the organization. So maybe you have power users that you want, that you have specific training needs that you want to be able to make sure that they're getting, or maybe that they're not power users. Maybe all they need to do is, look at dashboards or see, view different web maps. And maybe it's just, understanding, what the difference is between the two. So, kind of having a, if you're going to do, this type of work, here's some recommended courses, or here's some recommended things to read. Does that help? Is that kind of what you're...
Oh, yeah, that helps.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then for the enablement and engagement and innovation part.
So yeah, so this one, so I would say maybe a deliverable for enablement would be, the what solutions are you delivering? So implement prioritized solutions. So either it's that your plan as a whole of here's my different activities, here's the different things that I want to be able to do, and kind of the high level overview of what each solution will do to be able to achieve that value or meet that business challenge that somebody's doing, or having engagement. So this one, I would really say engagement is, what is your, adoption strategy? How will you be communicating things to the organization, especially I know a lot of people right now are moving from, away from ArcMap, away from desktop issue, a desktop workflows. And, people like, what they like, they don't like change. And moving from like ArcMap to Pro can be scary. Or maybe if, you realize, these people don't really need ArcMap or Pro, they just log on, they just want to see like a map with some layers on it. So let's move them to, Enterprise or ArcGIS Online and, be able to have their web map so that they can just, view it online instead of having, software on their computer that they need to open. And so, that's going to take some communication and as well. So, how will you be communicating that to, the different groups? And then innovation, I really enable and support innovation. So I think that, is kind of just going back to what solutions can you provide to be able to overcome those business challenges? And you get those quick wins out of the way, but maybe there's some more difficult, you know, things that you need to address that might take some time to be able to get there. But that's where that innovation, might come into play.
Okay, so this is more referring to like being able to come up with like those use cases, right, that you talked about.
Yes.
Okay. In terms of timeline, right? What I think you showed like timeline for the first two, but what about the others? Or are they kind of more like fluid, like they happen along with the other one as well?
That is, so in terms of time, so it kind of all kind of goes together. So let's say you have an activity that you're one of your activities is you want to be able to I'm trying to find here we go. So let's say one of these activities is replacing a legacy application with a COT solution. So people are using a paper workflow, a paper, out in the fields collecting data, and we want to replace it with a Survey 123 or a field map app. So what's going to go into that? So you're going to you're enabling and as well as engagement with your users. So that kind of goes hand in hand. So I would think on the activity level, you'd be kind of wrapping that into your timeline. So when you start building this application, kind of maybe starts with the adoption strategy, starting to communicate out to your users, hey, this is happening. Just want to let you know, creating that awareness so that they're not surprised by one day being like, nope, no more paper. You have to use this. Kind of creating that along the way. So I think it's all kind of like looped up into that timeline of like building one specific app, just kind of keeping that communication and awareness ongoing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hopefully that answered the question.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions?
Well, thank you so much, Christy, for presenting this information. Like I said, it can be really daunting until trying to muster either an assessment or justification, return on investment, all kinds of things within GIS in your organization. So it's nice to know there's some more tools out there that we can use when called upon to do these. Christy has put her contact information at the end of the slide. Is this slide something that we can make available, Christy?
Yep, I can
Okay.
send it over to you after this meeting.
That would be fantastic. And so we'll include that along with the video of this presentation so that you can refer back to all this good information when you're ready to really and be looking for our next IGIC Lunch and Learn is going to be, and I always forget to look at this ahead of time. It's going to be in December 16th. It's December 14th. We'll be December 14th, we'll be having our next IGIC Lunch Learn, so be looking out for that information. So, and unless anyone has any questions, I think we're done. Happy GIS Day.
Thank you all so much for having me.